Another student outside is asking how you work with editors. Are you over them all the time, pushing them, or are you leaving them to work?
Well, it depends on the editor. I worked on this last film with a very long-term colleague, Walter Murch, who maybe you've heard of. He's a great editor, and he's such a creative person that I'm blessed. You know, we look at the film together, and we're always giving ideas to each other. But in his case, he will work for 4 or 5 days, and then I will visit him, and he'll show me. But he's a filmmaker on his own. He cut the conversation, and he cut Youth Without Youth. With other editors, I like to be with them more, but I like to also edit myself. In Apocalypse Now, I had a very early electronic offline system. This is before there was, well, before the Avid was the Montage, and before the Montage there were just like what we used to call offline, where you would have like 3 or 4 tapes, and then you would build onto a recording. And I did a lot of editing for Apocalypse Now, because Apocalypse Now there was a jungle of film, you know, and I had to make some kind of sense. So, you know, I always think that, oh, someday I'm going to edit the film myself. Maybe I don't have the patience now. I don't know. Because usually during the editing is when I'm writing the new script. And the fact that I can work with Walter, when we were doing Youth Without Youth, I was writing Petro. So, and then, of course, it's great because when you go and sit with the editor, when it's that kind of editor, then you have fresh eyes. And so like actors, it depends on the individual. There are actors are very different one from another, and all your collaborators are very different. Editors are as well.
Te quería preguntar principalmente vos, ¿cuán involucrada estás en lo que es toda la postproducción de tanto imagen y principalmente sonido?
Yo voy todos los días y te digo, es agotador. A veces, no sé si es una forma de hacer cine como para andar recomendando, porque es agotadora. Porque uno termina de editar, que editar siempre es un momento de bastante tensión, viste, ahí ya está, lo que hiciste, lo hiciste. Entonces es un momento de bastante tensión y presión sobre todo para el productor, por supuesto, porque dice, uy, Dios mío, ¿qué voy a hacer con esto? Y para uno, porque encima sabés que te falta todo lo otro. Pero, entonces, cuando terminó el rodaje, estás bastante cansada, sigue la edición y al cansancio se agrega el estrés, y cuando llega, en mi caso, el momento de la postproducción de sonido, es como ir de nuevo al rodaje. Vos decís, ya no tengo energía para esto. Por suerte, si tenés compañeros de trabajo con los que podés compartir eso, se sobrelleva, ¿no? Pero físicamente es agotador, porque en esta película, por ejemplo, cuando no usas música, es tantas las posibilidades sonoras que tiene una escena, que juntar los elementos que necesitas o descartar los que no vas a usar, es mucho trabajo. Pero bueno, no sé, a mí me gusta eso y lo haces. Es muy agotador, pero para mí tiene su sentido, ¿no? Y después, respecto de la imagen, me involucro, pero la verdad me preocupa menos. Voy a la dosificación, pero en general uno confía en el director de fotografía con el que está y confías en sus decisiones, y esa persona que, por otro lado, si tuviste una buena relación, te invita a ver las cosas y a que opines y qué sé yo. Entonces es un proceso más o menos sencillo. Lo que resulta, digamos, las instancias donde se renueva la etapa de, por decirlo, composición o creación, son siempre más agotadoras. Y para mí la etapa de la banda sonora es como una etapa de renovación de las posibilidades de composición.
Film is made up of business and art and technology. So also, when we make a film, it is divided into the pre-production, the shooting itself, and then the editing. And then the editing itself you can think of as being divided into three separate categories. Plumbing, so how do you get the water from here to there without too many leaks, and have it be clean and drinkable, and then get rid of the wastes. And much of editing is simply concerned with questions like that. Once film starts shooting, there's a tremendous amount of material starts pouring into the editing room, and it all has to be very carefully organized such that we can find it when we need to, and out of the hundreds of hours of material, find exactly that one frame that we need. So I'm going to talk a little bit about plumbing, as boring as that may sound. It's actually fascinating to me because the tools that I've developed are visual tools to help me keep track of things, and I'll just show you what it looks like in my editing room here in San Telmo. The two other aspects of editing are writing. Is this chapter valuable in the book? Should we put a period at the end of this sentence or a comma? Should we change this character from a man into a woman, which is something that we did on this film? Can we transpose two events? Can we take one event and split it in half and put one part at the beginning and one part at the end? These are all things that every creative artist works with. And in the editing of a film, the construction of a film, we confront these same creative issues. And then the third issue is one that I would call performance. And here it's a question of the editor being something like a violinist or a musician who decides exactly how strong to move the bow across the violin, or exactly how much tremolo to put on something, how long to sustain a particular note, and then how loud to come in with the next note. And these are very intimate questions that would concern a violinist. If you talked to Isaac Stern or any of the famous violinists of the past and asked him to analyze his technique, he could describe something, but then he would run out of words. And I feel somewhat similar. The decision of which shot to use, where exactly to end the shot, what shot to go to next, all of these are determined, at least in the initial stages, by the editor. And it's only when we have finished our work that we then present this to the director, who then makes a judgment on whether our work is correct or not. So, of course, all of these three elements are intertwined. And
I hear in an NPR interview in California that you refuse to go to the set. You don't like to go to the set. You don't want to see anything at the set. Can you explain that? Why?
Yeah, I joke about it, that if I have to go to the set, can you still hear me? Yeah. I go into the set, but I look at the ground, and I walk around until I find the director's shoes, and then I talk to the director, and then I go back again, because I don't. The editor is one of the few people who works on the film all the way through, who has the ability to protect him or herself from being infected by the knowledge of what was going on during the shooting. Sometimes simply, how big is this room? You know, you meet an actor sometimes and you say, wow, he was so much smaller than I thought. Well, it's true of sets. A set on film can look very big, and you go there and it's quite small and it smells damp, and there's uneaten sandwiches over in the corner that have been there for 3 days, and it's supposed to be a romantic set. And every time you look at that shot, somewhere in the back of your mind is the image of that half-eaten sandwich on the floor. And I prefer not to know those things because I represent the audience who never know those things, and I want to also just know what I see on the screen for good and not so good. Sometimes they will spend a tremendous amount of time and a lot of money getting a shot, and I look at it and I say, well, yeah, but it doesn't, what were they doing? On the other hand, sometimes they shoot something that they don't really like, and people are hungry and they want to leave for lunch, and okay, let's just do it. And it's actually marvelous. Maybe not in the original context of how it was used, but or what it was intended, but if we took this shot and we put it over here, it would be really great. So I feel more free to think those thoughts if I haven't been on the set.
Thank you.
El sonido de la película, si es que haces vos la edición de sonido a medida que vas editando.
Well, the sound, I don't record the sound of the music. My specialty in sound is the final mix. So the crew that recorded the sound on Tetro was a two-person crew, Argentine. They used I think it's a Sound Devices digital recorder, a hard disk recorder. They produce what are called WAV files, .wav files, and we simply import them into Final Cut, and we record 4 tracks of sound. A single boom track, the microphone that hangs up that sometimes appears into the frame, and then each of the actors also has one of these microphones like that, and that is pinned to them. If we have 3 actors in a scene, each of them has their own microphone. If we have more actors, then we just make a decision about who gets the microphone and who doesn't. But so we have available to us 4 tracks, and when I'm editing, I have 4 tracks of sound. The boom track, which is called the open microphone, and then the individual sounds for each of the actors, which I can use in conjunction with the open microphone or choose one or the other, depending on the quality. At the other end, I'm cutting the picture and the sound in Final Cut, and out of Final Cut, we simply export that sound, which is 48K 24-bit digital sound, into Pro Tools, and then the work, the more detailed sound cutting continues to work in Pro Tools, and then the final mix will also be on a Pro Tools icon board, which is what we used on Youth Without Youth, Francis's film just before this.
Even when you plan real hard a movie, there's always trouble, unexpected troubles.
Yeah.
What kind of trouble do you find most commonly on the editing room?
So the trouble, a classic illustration of that was on The Conversation, Francis's film, where because of budget problems and schedule problems, he had to stop shooting with, I think, 10 days of shooting left. So 10 days of the script were never shot. And he said, well, Walter, I have to go now. to work on Godfather 2. So cut it together the best you can without this material, and we'll see. And if we have to go back to the studio and ask for another couple of days shooting to fix things, we will. But at least by cutting it together, we'll know what it is that we need. We may not need all this 10 days. And so for the next 4 months when I was editing, I was dealing with this fact that there was not this material that was in the script that was never shot. And this other process of cutting a long film, I think it was 3.5 hours long, down to 2 hours. Naturally, there are things that condense as you go. And in the end, we made one scene into a dream scene, the scene where he is talking to the girl in the park with the fog. That was originally intended to be something that happened in reality, and it was the result of a chase that led them to this park. And so by making it a dream scene, we didn't have to set up how it took place. It was all taking place in his head. And then the other problems were resolved by making the girl in the green dress, Meredith, making her steal the tape from Harry's laboratory. She was sent in the script originally just to steal some plans, but by making her an agent of the Robert Duvall character and Harrison Ford, and there to seduce Harry, and when he was sleeping to get these tapes, we were able to lock two parts of the film together and not need these other scenes, which were explaining things that we no longer needed to explain. So it turned out we only needed one shot, which was a close shot insert of a hand pulling a reel of tape off and having the reel fall in half, and you discover that the tape is gone. And then we cut to a shot of Gene Hackman, and he says, "Bitch." It was in reference to the fact that when we shot it, he was reacting to the fact that she had stolen his plans. But because of this shot, it was now clear that he was reacting to the fact that she stole the tapes. And all kinds of wonderful things happened as a result of that. But we needed to get this one shot. And Francis said, well, I'll talk to Roman Polanski. He's shooting a film down at Paramount now, and Conversation was a Paramount film. We can build a little set in the corner, and in between takes of this other film, we can shoot this insert. And I'll get Gene Hackman's brother as a stand-in, and that will just be a bit of the shoulder, and he can pull the tape. So I went down to Los Angeles from San Francisco and went onto the set, and there was Jack Nicholson with a big bandage on his nose, and the film they were shooting was Chinatown. And I said, "Hello, I'm here to shoot an insert for Francis." "Oh yes, we heard about you, okay. Vilmos Zsigmond, the director of photography, can you spare a B camera and we'll set up over here?" And so we did the shot, and as we were shooting the shot, I looked over and there were Polanski and Nicholson with the cut nose watching and waiting, when can we get our camera back? And in fact, if we had panned at the end of that shot, I wish I had done it, if we had panned off, we would have seen Nicholson and Polanski waiting for their camera back. Anyway, that versions of that happen all the time. We are, we are, you, and especially you are, all of us are, but especially you, are making films with computers. That's the nature of what you do, whether you're a writer or a director or a designer or a visual effects supervisor or a sound designer or an editor or whatever, costume designer. You will be using a computer for your work. That computer is a physical extension of your corporal body. Think of it as if it's your kidney, because it really is. It's an extension of your brain and personality, and it's part of your organism. And as a result of that, you must back up that information. And I know that you don't.
Thank you very much. Sabemos que se tiene que ir. Y está haciendo muy
You can't stop now. Go online, but it's a very inexpensive backup program that takes 10 minutes to back up 160 gigabytes of information. It does it selectively. It says, what has changed since the last time I backed up, and I'm only going to back that up. And when it's done, what's on the hard drive, the hard disk that you detach and you put in a safe place, that disk is bootable, which means that if your computer breaks or gets stolen or God knows what happens to it, you simply take this disk, get a new computer, plug it in, and your old computer is back. And it's as if it never left. And you don't have to reinstall anything. It's all there ready to work, and you then simply copy over the information onto the hard drive in your computer and continue from where you're going. But believe me from personal experience, because it's happened to me and it's happened to a number of our associates, very, very important to do it. And do it every day. Just, when you get up in the morning, have a cup of coffee, back your computer up. It takes 10 minutes and you're done. Thank you.
Okay, ahora sí.